After waking up with a jolt, the girl laid there for a few seconds longer, reaching over to switch on her bedside lamp. She tried to remember what exactly had stolen her sweet slumber away. When she couldn't, the brunette swung her legs round the side of her bed and heaved herself up. Checking the time on her phone, she snorted when she saw that it was midnight, the witching hour. She left her bedroom for the kitchen and a good cup of coffee on mind. As she passed by her front door, a chill spread like liquid fire down her spine. It's only winter, she told herself, focusing again on the coffee plan. Measuring out scoops, water and preparing the cup kept her mind occupied, but as the dark liquid boiled, she had nothing to keep her mind from wandering off. The chill returned and she couldn't help but glance behind her at the door. It stood there, innocently enough, just like always. The deadbolt was still in place and she could see nothing amiss with it. Turning back to her coffee, she did her best to forget about the feeling. With her cup in hand, she started back towards her bedroom. As she walked by the front door, she decided to take a quick glance out the peephole that would calm her restless mind. The chill worsened with each step she took towards the door, and the further away from the safety and warmth of her blankets. She pressed her empty hands against the cold metal door and took a deep breath before leaning her eye onto the peephole. At first, she could only see an inky blackness, and it somehow seemed to be swelling into itself. When she blinked in surprise, the void melted away. She wished it hadn't. In its place, there stood was what she could only guess once was a man. The limbs were long and humanly awkward, with bulky joints branching off into several arms, not unlike the branches of a tree. The creature was draped in a black suit, somehow making the whole thing more nightmarish to her. The icing on the proverbial cake, however, was what passed as the hellish thing's face. It's like my mind blurred the ghastly visage to spare itself further shock and horror. She shoved herself away from the door with her hand still pressed against it. The scalding mug of coffee fell, the liquid burning her bare legs as she fell backwards and tried to crawl away from the door. She knew somehow that her mind had not been playing tricks on her. As she walked away from the door, she watched these tendrils black as the void she had first saw snaking around the door and cracks. The girl was trapped between the instinct to flee and the gut feeling to not turn her back on the door. When the door jolted, the urge to run became overwhelming for her, and she slipped in the burning liquid as she tried to make her way back to her bedroom. She knew deep down that she was trapping herself in a corner, but she had to get away from the door. The girl was halfway down the hallway when she heard the previously locked doors creak open. She screamed and slipped into the wall, cracking her chin on it and stunning herself. After that, there was only blackness. "Nicole?" A warm male voice snapped the woman out of her trance. As she turned round, she was met by her sister's doctor. She nodded, not sure what she should say, or even if she had the voice to say anything, if she had anything to say. That morning, she had gotten an urgent phone call from the hospital, saying that her sister, Lindsay, was there. Before they had even let her see her sister, the doctor pulled her off into the side and insisted they talk to her about what might have happened. Phrases like self-inflicted and assault had been thrown around, and Nicole felt her mind reel. She still hadn't fully understood what they were saying until she saw Lindsay with her own eyes. Her little sister had a bandage wrapped around her head, covering both her ears as well as her eyes. They say it was to keep her now deadened eyes from drying out, and trying to keep the infection out of the wounds Lindsay had made to her ears. The doctor had guessed that either she or someone else had jammed a pencil into them to keep her off balance or deafen herself against something. There was a mix of first and second degree burns on her hands, legs and feet, from what we assumed to be coffee, as the neighbour who found her found slipped all over the entry of her apartment. As Nicole walked into her sister's hospital room for the first time, she thought she spied a silhouette of a man in the window. That she knew was impossible. Her sister's room was on the third story of the hospital. The mythology of Slenderman is a gruesome one. Clutches of children disappearing without a trace, adults found impaled on treetop branches, and organs missing from his victims. Its legend runs much deeper than previously believed. Dramatic fairy tales tell of a guardian who roamed the Black Forest, hunting children until they confessed to their wrongdoings, but his reach extends far beyond his roots in Germany. Slenderman has appeared all throughout history in England, Japan, and most recently in North America. How he chooses his victims still remains a mystery. But this much we do know: Slenderman will stalk his victims, inducing massive paranoia, nightmares, and hallucinations, collectively dubbed the Slender Sickness. Death of his victims often occurs through impalement on tree branches, removal or reinsertion of plastic-wrapped organs, or abduction of the already slender, sickness-stricken subjects. His procedure has changed in recent times. However, now preferring to aggressively stalk his victims into irreversible psychosis for long periods of time until the subject is ripe for murder. Any attempt to catch a Slender Man on recording devices have all failed. He has even exhibited the ability to erase memories from our brains upon contact. We may all be victims. It's impossible to know, but one thing is certain. It's too late. Slenderman is a part of our history, told throughout the ages, probably to scare straight, willful little children, as many told tales are. But now it's a massive cult sensation. Slenderman has really taken on a life of his own, spawning multiple fiction writings and creepypastas from fans, plus the creation of the Slender movie in 2013, on a roll now having released several games available to play and freak yourself out with. If the stories and films aren't enough, there's also a Slender song to listen to. My personal favourite is the teaser that American Horror Story will be featuring our Slender friend in Season 6, We Can Only Hope. Slenderman has not only managed to captivate the minds of creative people and horror fans alike, he's gotten so big, now apparently he's outsourcing his insidious dealings, warping youngsters' minds into doing his evil biddings, unfortunately resulting in the tragic real attempted murder of a young girl. The 12-year-old victim was found by a bicyclist, badly wounded in a ditch on the side of the road, after having managed to drag her way out of the forest. Police were called and she was immediately taken into hospital and rushed into surgery. She had been stabbed 19 times in the arms, legs and abdomen with a large kitchen knife. 2 of the stab wounds were in major arteries. One of them nearly penetrated her heart but missed by less than a millimetre. One of the others went through the diaphragm, cutting into the liver and stomach. The doctor noted her heart rate was elevated and her blood pressure was low, a sign that some of her organs were failing. She was in surgery for 6 hours. The doctor operating on the victim was forced to open up her chest in order to repair the damage. According to investigators, the 2 perpetrators had become convinced not only that Slender Man was real, but also that it was the only way to win his approval was killing someone for a sacrifice. In February 2015, both girls accused of perpetrating the stabbing were interrogated by police. In the interrogation, the girls said they planned the stabbing because they wanted to keep Slender Man from harming their own families and to become his proxies. They believed they would become servants of Slenderman and be allowed to live in his mansion, which they believed was in Nicolet National Forest. Each girl blamed the other for coming up with a plan to murder their friend. One girl was initially found incompetent to stand trial, diagnosed by the state psychiatrics with childhood onset schizophrenia, and was remanded to the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. She was returned to Winnebago in December 2015 by the Wisconsin State Court of Appeal for the treatment and remained there until March 2016 when the doctors determined that her condition was stabilized. Both perpetrators were 12 years old at the time of the stabbing, as was the victim. All 3 were classmates enrolled in the same middle school and had been at a sleepover at one of the suspects' homes the night before. In August 2014, one of the girls had been ruled incompetent to stand trial. In December 2014, both girls were ruled incompetent to stand trial. The girls have been charged with attempted first-degree intentional homicide. They have been set to be tried as adults because in Wisconsin, all murders or attempted murder charges for children older than 10 starts in adult court. Bail was set at $500,000 each. In February 2015, Anthony Cotton, an attorney for one of the 2 girls, filed a brief contending that his client should not be charged with attempted first-degree homicide. According to the brief, the correct charge should be attempted murder second degree because the girl believed Slenderman would have her and her family if she hadn't killed on his behalf. In March 2015, the judge disagreed with the argument and ruled to keep the 2 in adult court. Their cases may still be moved to juvenile court for other reasons during the hearing in May and June 2015. On August 10th, a judge ruled both teenagers will be tried in an adult court. On August 21st, Waukesha County Circuit Court Judge Michael Burren entered a not guilty plea on behalf of both girls as their attorney declined to enter a plea. On September 30th, 2015, Judge Burren stayed the case against the 2 girls so that the state appeal court could determine whether they should be tried in adult or juvenile court. The decision was initially scheduled to be made in January of 2016, but was pushed back until April of that year due to an extension request by the state of Wisconsin and the attorney of one of the accused. On April 15th, a judge refused to reduce the bond of the 2 girls, which had been set at $500,000 due to the seriousness of their crime of which they had been accused of committing, and the belief that they posed a flight risk. The defendants are scheduled to reappear in court in July of 2016. A conviction on first-degree charges in adult court could result in a sentence of up to 65 years in state prison, whereas a conviction in juvenile court could send them to a secure facility until the age of 25. Recently, Geyser confessed she would do it again. She would break into someone's house and stab them if he told her to. She would have to. Not long after this, the lawyer requested that Morgan Geyser be allowed to finish her treatment and await possible trial at her home under the watch of a county social worker on the grounds that her schizophrenia was stable after several months of intense therapy and medication. No date was given for the hearing request. A similar request has been denied before. The girls are still set to be tried in adult court, which they are appealing. The two girls will be tried separately, so one of them could be tried in child's court, resulting in very different outcomes. The trial is set for August 2016. The poor victim in this case thankfully recovered well from her terrible ordeal and has since celebrated birthdays, holidays and even gone back to school, gaining back slowly the normal life she once had before the vicious brutal attack, healing slowly with her loving family around her. After the tragic incident, the Creepy community held a 24-hour streaming session to raise money for the victim, to show they are not bad people, they just like scary stories. And the governor issued a proclamation declaring Wednesday, the 13th, 2015, Purple Heart's Healing Day, and encouraged people to wear purple out of respect for the girl. A documentary called Beware the Slenderman was released March 2016, following the incident. Even though the horrific attack was so done in the name of Slenderman, I do not think he is to blame for their evil acts. Had Slenderman not existed, it would have been another creepy character the girls' delusions would have manifested as. I personally think they would have committed these acts either way, or something like it at some point in the future, as it was clearly mental illness presenting itself. With these girls feeding into each other's delusions, it seems like more of a deadly pairing, both suffering similar but different degrees of mental illness, sharing similar dark thoughts. Normally in these types of friendships, one of them is more dominant, pushing the fantasy into reality. The dominant friend would have no doubt gone on to cause problems on their own life, resulting in a violent act at some point. But the weaker one, had they never met that person and had a normal friendship, would have probably never got as far as they did. They would have grown out of it with much less resistance. What I have said is not in any way meant to offend anyone. It's just my opinion, and I would like to hear your thoughts and opinions on the video and the content.